Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And with that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsor. Mellow Mint, a bright and refreshing blend of Pacific Northwest grown peppermint and spearmint. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. All right, thank y'all so much for watching again. Shout out The Brothers Apothecary. Make sure to click the link below and go check them out. I guarantee you're going to like it. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
Hey, I'm Memory Derelict.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about, where you're from, what you do, give us that like Tinder profile of your music.
I grew up overseas.
Oh,
moved cool. Here when I was like 19, 20-ish. Okay. So, yeah, just been in Vancouver for the past 6 years or so.
Oh, cool.
Hanging.
Oh, yeah. What brought you over here?
I knew people here from back where I was overseas, and like I knew people from this part of the country, and my family side is from Georgia, and I was like over kind of that
fair
world and everything. So I was like, oh, Northwest is cool. And I was binging like a lot of Twin Peaks at the time.
Yep.
And it just felt right. I already like knew I was coming up here before then, but I started and I was like, oh,
yeah, might as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And what got you into music initially?
Oh, just like listening to it or like playing or
whichever you would choose to start with first.
I feel like my first musical memory was like Enya.
Oh, hell yeah.
And the Day Before or Day Without Rain album.
Shout out to Introducing the Machine, because that album definitely got mentioned on their episode. They are big Enya fans as well. It's
so good.
I grew up with that like in the car all the time.
Same.
All the time. I always wondered who could say Where the Road Goes.
Yeah. The song Wild Child, I'm pretty sure is like the first song I remember like hearing as a kid.
It's a quality jam.
Yeah, it's great.
And then I guess from there, what got you into like playing music?
Yeah, I mean, my mom like taught us kids to read like sheet music and like, play piano, sort of, but like I didn't really care about it. Like up until I didn't have to, and then I like started to like listen to more music like in high school, as one does, and my parents got me like a guitar for like one Christmas, and I started learning that. And like senior year of high school, I had too many study halls, so I didn't take an elective. So I had a friend who was really into guitar, so it was gonna be kind of like a independent study, like focused on like guitar theory. And then he was like, "Oh, here's Reason or like another like DAW or whatever."
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is fun. And
then
that
was it. Yep.
However many years later, here we are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Was Reason the first one you started with?
Yeah, first one. It was like an old version of Reason too.
I was gonna say
it was like Reason like I don't even know, but it was from like probably 2010 or something.
Okay, I feel like that was probably like Reason 6.
I want to say Reason 6.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Right. Yeah.
Damn, going way back.
Yeah. Thinking about the interface now, I was like, oh wow, that was a lot.
Hey, if it helps, the first DAW I started on was Logic 8.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used 8 and 9 for much longer than I care to admit. Like 10 had been out for a while before I switched, even before I even switched to Ableton. Like Ableton 10, I think, was fully out for a long time before I jumped onto it. It was, but if it works, it works. I mean, every year it's supposed to be getting better.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about more of that when we get into the middle. For these next couple questions, these are foundation ones we check in with everybody on. And this first one, it's one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
It was the album Awake by Skillet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my introduction into like heavier music. And I think my dad had like bought a song or two on iTunes, and I was like, yeah,
enamored with
cool.
them.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I love those moments, especially for heavier genres, where you're like, oh, music can be like this.
Music can be loud.
Like I remember I was going through my dad's like CD stack when I was much younger, and I found Megadeth.
Nice.
And he claims it wasn't his.
No, of course.
He claims it wasn't his, but it was there.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, what are these sounds?
These horrifying.
And then I found out Dave Mustaine was kind of silly, and I was like, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But, we all got to start somewhere for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And then subsequently, what was the first live show you ever went to that was like one you wanted to go to, that you like saw a ticket, or like you went and got tickets and like went to it? Was it also Skillet?
No, even more cringe. It was Imagine Dragons, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what?
It was a different time in my life, and
I was going to say, I won't say that I love them.
I truly detest them to my core today.
I bet the live show was good.
The live show was good.
Like, they have the budget for a good live show.
It's kind of like those songs are like only meant to be seen in a live setting. And
isn't stadium rock kind of I know that's not exactly what they are, but wouldn't they fall into the realm of like modern stadium rock?
Like modern stadium rock, like yeah.
So I mean, hey, and everybody's got to have a first show of some sort. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I guess you know what? Just to get the taste of Imagine Dragon out of our mouth. What was your favorite live show you've ever gone to?
Oh man, probably like almost a. I mean, there's a few. Seeing Death Grips was pretty sick.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I bet that was wild.
Oh, dude, it was so sick. It was like. Yeah, saw them last year and they came through. I was like in line for an obscene amount of time just to make sure I got the spot, and my hips were all bruised up the next day from being just like slammed against the barrier, or the barricade, but it was so worth it.
Well, hey, that's a good redemption show for sure.
Yeah. I'd say like that, or like Radiohead or something like that. So I'm trying to like redeem, those players.
No. I mean, we all have to start somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And then before we get into this middle portion, do you have a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music a little bit more seriously?
I'm not sure if there's like a specific defining moment. It was more just kind of like, I've always been into like art in some like form or fashions. I used to like draw a lot, and I still do, and I still like try to paint and do things like that. But I think I just like, once I found out like, oh, I like really enjoy like making music. I would say probably like 2017, like in like the winter or like the beginning of 2017, like put out like the first kind of like my first like little album that like I made as like a whole like little thing.
Okay.
It was like under a different name, but I was like really into like, I was like finding out about like Brian Eno and like Aphex Twin and artists like those. And I was like, oh, like you can do all this stuff like just using like a computer. And beforehand I kind of like, maybe snubbed my nose at like, oh, like they're not like a real like band, or they use a computer, like, oh, it's a scary thing. And
so that was around the time that you delved kind of more into the electronic side of things, because leading up to it, you'd been like, oh, I learned piano, oh, I learned guitar.
Yeah.
And I was kind of curious where that transition happened.
Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely like connected to like like learning like, or starting to learn like Reason and
well, I mean, Reason is definitely one of those kind of like programs as well. Like it was very much geared, especially being like all proprietary and it's software and such, or I guess it's plugins and such. Like you had to like really use what it gave you for the longest time.
Yeah. So I use Logic now, and they're like big synthesizer like called like Alchemy, and
Logic always had unfair plug-in instruments. Like you had to understand how to use them, but like ES2, I loved that synthesizer. It was so malleable. You could get the gutsiest sounds out of it, and it was just stock in it. But we're not going to get into how their algorithm for stock stuff is like far superior in a lot of ways. Even though I use Ableton, I have to stand on their stuff. But We're here to talk about you, not them, and I'm sure we'll get into it more anyway.
Sure.
But let's go ahead and get on into you in the current day. And we're going to get a super easy one out of the way.
Cool.
How'd you pick the name?
I don't even know why. I think I've always liked, or I guess I've been intrigued by just like human memory and how drastically can change like our perception of like events. And like up until probably like a few years ago, I just kind of suffered from like crippling bouts of like nostalgia, just kind of paralyzed me a little bit. And like I don't know where to like move forward and like where I am now. And I don't know. I think that the phrase just kind of like, I don't know, just kind of popped into my head when I was like out hiking or something. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. If I put out like, at the time I was kind of like retiring like another musical like project. And I was like, wanting to do something new, but I just kind of wanted like space from like everything for a little bit. And that felt like a good kind of like, I don't know. And it wasn't taken.
Yeah.
is another big
part. That's a big part. Like, when you got to Google your name. Like that rule number one, always Google your name first. But I mean, it is a good name. I do this bit where I like break down people's names. And I mean, first of all, like size wise, the two words work together. So you can do a lot of like stack things. Memory is an easy one to remember, no pun intended. And derelict is an interesting word. It's not one I've seen a lot just in general. So like, even though it like is like the first time you try to spell it, you're like, is an E, is an I, the second, like you get it super quick and it sticks. Like it sounds nice. You can do a lot with it aesthetically. So,
well, thank you. Yeah.
On top of being a unique name, it's got a lot you could do with it. So it's super fun. I thought you were doing something on like computer memory.
Oh no,
that was the direction cool. I thought you were going.
Another thing I think it might play into it is I'm a big Alien fan, like movies, Alien movies, and the Derelict is like the name of the ship, like the one I find in that. So this probably was just lurking in my subconscious somewhere.
Hey, there's a million. I love when people are like, my name could mean a million things, but this is what I meant in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then let's go ahead and let's talk about your writing process. Cause definitely just based off of the few things I've seen or heard on YouTube, I imagine it's more of an abstract one, but we're going to kind of break it up into chunks and we're going to start right at the beginning. When you get inspired, you're ready to make music. What are some of the things you do to get a track started?
Dude, it honestly depends. Like, I feel like I try to like, change the way I approach songwriting with like every, like a new album or like EP or whatever. Usually what happens is I have like an idea in my head and I sit down in front of like the synths or guitar or whatever and like try to make that idea a reality. Never goes the way that I want to, and usually I usually come up with like, I don't know, maybe like 5 seconds of something that sounds super cool, but like not at all like what I was going for. And then I'll like, oh, okay, well, that's different. And I'm gonna have to like readjust everything like around that. But the last album I did, Revelation, like there are more songs in there that I kind of like had planned out or I'd written on guitar beforehand and then kind of came to like later, as opposed to like writing everything just kind of like in my like little area or like my studio or whatever.
Your creative space.
Yeah. But yeah, like I will come up with like ideas a lot, and I don't know, they rarely translate over like into like the start of a song. It's easier for me to like get like the basic components of a song together, and then like I'll leave it be and like sit and think and kind of figure out like, I don't know, like like the rest of like the world of a song, because I kind of feel like I think of like songs as like their own like little like universe or whatever. And
well, then your sound is a little more I guess abstract is a word I would use for it, but it feels like the sound kind of is a little more fluid into itself.
And the last album definitely. This new one is way more like, I guess there are definitely like weird like abstract things to it. It's like it depends, I guess. Like I don't know if I'd be able to like sit down and like hear like elements of those songs and be able to tell you exactly like where like they originally came from.
Well, I mean,
maybe, but
in the realm of electronic stuff too, a lot of it is kind of creative in the moment. of like this is a sound that didn't exist 10 seconds ago.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, I was checking. I actually went to YouTube for a handful of your things, and one of the ones I was checking out was obviously 10,000 volts.
Oh yeah.
Which is just. I'm gonna put it out there first. That would of the ones that were on there, that was definitely the one I would lean towards. I thought it was really cool. It just had this really nice texture to it. It was like progressive and industrial at the same time. Like that. Like I don't know how those two came together in my head as the descriptive words. Yeah. But it never felt like you stuck on any one thing for too long. Like it really felt like it evolved kind of through the time.
Good. That's the goal. I don't know. I love electronic music, but I definitely feel like a lot of producers can like, it's like, I don't know. Okay, we've heard these 8 bars looped for a while now, and we can add some variety. And yeah, it's a hard balance, I feel like, of trying to like make something that feels like consistently engaging, but also like is something that you can sort of like jam out to for a while. And finding that balance is like something I'm trying to like perfect, I guess. Yeah,
no, like I said, like the progressive within electronic music is the balancing act. Like I think some of the people who are so capable are the people who find that. I'm personally, there's a first time on the show, I'm a big fan of cone sound. I don't know if you're familiar with that
at all.
KOAN space sound. And they are arguably untouchable with their soundscapes. Like their sound design in particular is phenomenal. Yeah. And one of the things I really enjoy is that their sound always is evolving. Like not from like album to album, like in the song. Yeah. It just has this like almost textural metamorphosis within itself for every song. Cool. So that's just, kind of something I would, compare it to for sure.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, there's a few, I mean, I say all the songs in the album have like at least like 2 major changes that they go through. Just, I feel like, I don't know, the last album was very much like very linear, I guess, in terms of like the way like the songs played out. And that was like how I was wanting it to be. Like I wanted it to be this, kind of immersive, like sort of ambient thing. And I was just trying to do something different every time. And I think
it's important. Also, from album to album, it's good to have like a change in progression in experience.
Yeah, you want to show people you can do more than just like the one
exactly
or whatever. Or
unless you're like Afrojack, who somehow has never changed their sound, yet always ends up being an accidental banger. Afrojack, thank you for still making music. But we're neither here nor there. Getting back to you, I do want to mention one other thing I heard on YouTube because I really liked it. I really liked it, and it was the jam with the DFAM, the Mother 32, and the Beam or the Beads.
Oh yeah.
That was really interesting because like usually when it's like that kind of just like, oh my God, why can I not think of modular-esque synthesis experience? But I mean, I'm pretty partial to the Mother 32 in particular.
It's a great synth.
It's so good.
So good.
And I had to ask, there was this like reverberous top tone over it. Do you remember what made it that way? Like, did you have like a reverb added on in post? Was that one of the elements of one of the things you were using?
Oh, no, that would have been all like, I try to do all my effects like when I record.
And there was something that gave it this like, it was like this
sparkly sort of like,
it had this like additional tone on the top that felt like it was like a responsive thing based on it.
Yeah, it was probably beads. There's like it's this it's like this, to get like super nerdy, it's this like granular synth like module. And I mainly use it for like pitch shifted delays and stuff. And the reverb is amazing on it. So if you turn that up and then like do like a little bit of you can set the pitch to like however you want. I'm pretty sure that's like what it was doing.
Okay, yeah.
I run basically everything through beads just because it sounds great.
Yeah, no,
it's really versatile.
It really stood out to me. So I was hoping you'd be able to break that one down. So I'm glad to know that's where it came from.
That's what's going on. Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. But getting back into more of the format questions, I guess, you have a new album coming out pretty soon, right?
Yeah.
And that's exciting. Do you plan to perform it? Is it something that's performative?
Yeah, so I'm just yesterday kind of ran through it again. So I'm doing like a release show for it on the 3rd of May. And yeah, I was originally trying to like maybe play guitar along with it. But the like synth leads that are going on are just not like, I feel like it'd just be a mess, and like if I could just would like muddy it. So what I'm doing is I'm processing the wave files through like the modular setup. So it's basically like, I'm basically just applying like lots of effects to everything and just manipulating those. And also I'm using that same module beats as almost like a like beat slicer, or almost like a skipping sort of like sound. So yeah, I was trying to like build up like sound of like what's already there. Yeah.
So is it kind of like almost like stutter edit?
Kind of. I think it depends on like on the song. Like it can be like sort of like a zzz sort of sound, or like more like a choppy like. Yeah. So I think it depends on like whichever song I'm playing. But yeah, I don't know. Like that's one thing I'm trying to like figure out how to do is like I love like I'm trying to find a way to play songs already done in a like electronic music live is not always that exciting.
It's
watch.
Tough, and it's definitely tough as a performative element. Yeah. But I think also giving it the opportunity to where it can be expressive in real time. I think that's because I mean that's I use Ableton as an editing platform, but like I think that's really one of the things that Ableton really opened up, and shout out to Daft Punk for making it what it was at a certain point. But like the opportunity to like do whatever you want with it, but give it the ability to retain itself is the balancing act. I think that's the hardest part of a live performance with electronic. Yeah. So all my live performances, like up until like this next one, would have been like everything's just like from scratch, and it's like all live, like kind of a single like playthrough. And so this is not that. So I kind of feel like cheating a little bit like by playing this, but at the same time, like this will be the first time people will have heard the album other than like close friends. So I feel like it'll be fine, and it sounds cool, and I'm like, it's fun to play, and like I feel like it's fairly expressive. But. And do you have it set up in a way, because one of the questions I usually ask is like, what is your favorite song to perform? But do you have it set up in a way that you can perform the songs individually, or is it going to be still kind of one consistent long playthrough, almost like a a DJ set?
Yeah, so I'm just kind of playing through the entire album.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's say there's two songs that I think are really fun to play on there. Both are like different. One of them's kind of like more of like a somewhat like trip hoppy sounding song.
Okay.
That one's called Refuge, and that one is like fun with like the sort of like beat slicing ability, because it's like it's spaced out enough so it's like when I don't know, it's fun. It's I don't know. It's hard to like articulate it when like the song isn't out yet, and like
totally.
I haven't like played it, so we'll see how it actually ends up happening. But it is fun. Like the first time I did it, I was like, like the day after, I'm like, I went way too hard, like just like headbanging along to it.
Okay,
so,
well that's a good sign. Yeah, at least for the for us listeners.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe have like a neck brace prepared for the next.
Okay. I asked myself,
book a massage.
Like, I asked myself how do like metal musicians like do any long touring and headbang heavily, and like
I'm sure there are exercises dedicated to this. A lot of like little arm circles.
Oh yeah. They're all giving each other like neck rubs afterwards.
Oh, hey, there you go.
Yeah,
the whole point of having a band.
Exactly.
And then I guess looking at your more current stuff, the album that you're working on, what are some of the like descriptive words you can give us that are like elements of the sound that you enjoy?
I mean, you said industrial. That's a big one for me. Like I'm
glad I used that one. I was like, I hope he doesn't think it's like
no that
in the realm of electronic music, it's so specific sometimes that you can use one and they're like, oh, I'm not industrial, I'm post technological core, and you're like, I thought those were the same things.
Man, I like like genre descriptors are such like a blight on society. Sometimes it feels like it's like, I don't know, or I guess people just can get way too like a lot about their descriptors, and I feel like industrial is a pretty good one. That's the one that I've like kind of used for. Yeah, I tend to like those like harsher sort of like sounds. And,
yeah.
But I mean, it's pretty atmospheric too. Like there's lots of details. Like I really hate like music like is like I'm industrial, aka I put like a ton of distortion over like a drum beat and like called it a day.
You just recorded a drill, like
yeah, exactly.
Literally like a power saw. You're like, all right, there we go.
Exactly, and you listen to like the pioneering like industrial albums, and like they don't have that sound at all. Like they hardly use like distortion. Like it's off and.
Or if they did, it wasn't a distortion, it was distorted.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they were like, we're just going to record it as loud as possible.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like industrial is a good one. I know the term is kind of cringe, but like IDM or like like intelligent dance music. It's kind of like blanket term for like, I don't know, a lot of the artists under like.
Damn, I had always low key wondered what the I stood for. I never looked it up.
Yeah, and now you know. Or you could call it brain dance if you want to be less like
okay
about it. Yeah.
Hey, I mean, either way, that all sounds really exciting. Definitely looking forward to it when it comes out.
Thank you.
And I guess before we move on to this next portion, oh, actually, no, I forgot. I have a new question I've been asking people. So second to last question here. We're gonna zoom out for a second because we've kind of dug inwards on a lot of your stuff, but we're gonna go all the way out. And I want you to look at current music. And what are some elements of music that's coming out right now that you enjoy?
I've been really getting into, I don't know, I guess I am really drawn to the genres fusing in a way that like, I like genre crossovers when they're done well, or like, I don't know. Something I've been really into is like this kind of trend of like sort of like emo violence, but mixed with like shoegaze.
Oh yeah.
There's this band called Infant Island that I've been really into, and they just put out like a new album, and I'm like obsessed with it. I love that. Like, yeah, those walls of like guitars with like vocals like that. It's great. I love it. Oh man, like a lot. Like I feel like I'm always listening to like new stuff, and it's hard for me to kind of like.
No, I'm
gonna say that's like the main one I guess I'm like into now, or I guess like people not being afraid to like embrace new metal. Yeah. Again, like I feel like that was something that's really was kind of like snobbily looked down upon in like the 2010s.
Yeah, definitely. It had an odd run. Because I think that it tried to introduce itself into like almost too many avenues at once. Yeah. Like, because it showed up everywhere. Like Electronic Elements tried to introduce themselves into everything as soon as somebody realized you could buy a synthesizer for like $250. Like microcorgs were everywhere. The mini Novas started to show up everywhere. Like they just, I think like I'm a big fan of Enter Shikari. Yeah. That first album, I think, is like the perfect example of like how Electronic Elements should have been introduced into the genres. Yeah. But like it was abrasive because at the same time it was blowing up in like the modern, like LMFAO and things like that. It showed up in too many places at once, and people couldn't understand why from the outside. Yeah. But now, especially like, because like it showed up in indie music as the first, like they accepted it. You look at like Motion City Soundtrack, and they had the Mini Moog was like their main synth for the longest time, but their keyboard player went harder than everybody. Yeah. Like Electronic Elements showed up in music in a lot more spots than just those. Like I know I'm dating myself in certain spots, but they've been all over the place. Yeah. But I think now we're seeing the usefulness of it. Like we're seeing the expansiveness and the ability to make anything possible within any space. Yeah. And that's actually that I really appreciate that's been the similar answer to that question is the versatility. And everybody's really enjoying diversity in music. And that's all that it was supposed to be way back then. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Now for the final question in this middle portion. And this is probably the densest question in the interview.
Cool.
But we talked a lot about, your experience with music, the actions, the reactions, things like that. But when it's just you and the music one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
It gives me like, I guess it depends, completely like on like the artist and album, but again, like I kind of view music as, albums and songs as kind of like this, like an actual like space, I feel like, and having headphones on and just kind of like being kind of just like in this like separate spaces. It's I don't know, like it helps center me, I guess. Like if music hasn't like, I don't know, if I'm not doing something, if I'm not either like making a lot of music or like listening to a lot of music, I feel very much just kind of like apathetic about the world and everything. So it is just, it kind of feels like a necessity for me not to like make it feel like that serious of a thing, but like it's really just like shaped kind of like I think like who I am, especially in like the past like 7 years or so. Like
sounds like it gives you a sense of purpose.
Yeah. And especially now I feel like I have like something else I can like I feel like I can always like be growing and improving in like this specific thing and like this like specific art form. And and it's, I don't know, it's like I love film and like things like that and reading, but just like music to me is kind of like the pinnacle of like art, and in my opinion.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, that's something I try to say before every episode anyways.
Yeah.
So I fully agree with you there.
Cool.
One thing I think is really interesting, and I'm just going to, before we move on to the next part, I like that you answer a lot of the questions as a music listener and not just as a music creator. Yeah. And I think that shows a different level of music appreciation that like, that's kind of my thing. It's like, I really enjoy listening. Like I make music. I've made music for a long time. I play music, but I've always enjoyed the act of listening to music, like it as almost its own art. Yeah. Yeah. Music appreciation for the self. And so I really resonate with a lot of your answers in that respect, because I think that it's cool that you can, find the time to enjoy the music of others as well as the music of yourself.
Totally. Cool. Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, it definitely is like, when I'm working on something, I'm trying now to like not listen to as much music just because I feel like I can be like overly critical of myself in terms of like, oh, you're borrowing too much from the sound, even if it might not be the case, but I'll just still feel like subconsciously I need to like check
totally. Especially like I always found when I was making music full time, I like to listen to stuff that sounded nothing like what I was making.
Oh yeah.
Just to make sure I like didn't have like too many like premeditated influences. Yeah, I was just like, all right, well, I'm making this like electronic funk track, so I think today's a good day for death metal.
Yeah, I was like, it's a perfect day to throw some cattle decapitation.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Shoot, when I was doing it, definitely would have been some job for a cowboy. But
wait, what do you think of the new album?
Huh? Oh, I haven't listened to their new album.
I haven't either. I know it's out, and I know friends who like it.
Damn,
I haven't listened yet.
Well, I know what I'm doing tonight.
Cool.
So, accidental album wreck for everybody. Definitely.
Neither of us have listened to.
True. So it's a pre-listened album wreck.
We hear it's good.
Yes, it'll work perfectly for this next round of questions, which is all hypothetical questions.
Yeah.
And for these ones, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well.
Sure.
But this first one's pretty straightforward. If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive. Mm-hmm. Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
Oh, man. I am going to say, are you familiar with the band Shoo Shoo at all?
Oh God, the name sounds so familiar.
It's spelled Xiu.
That makes it sound more familiar.
Yeah. I don't know how to describe their sound. They're really experimental and out there and strange, but I would definitely work with like Jamie Stewart, who's been like the one like consistent member of the band like since its inception. And they're very just like, I've like met them and like interact with them, and like I've taken a few like music classes with them, so I can
cool.
Like, a good person and like chill, and they have an ear for both like great melodic stuff and just the most like horrific, abrasive, like hellish soundscapes you've ever heard, and aren't afraid to like accept and like take on like just the darker aspects of just like human existence. And they're probably them. Like I feel like there's maybe like bigger musicians that would be fun too, but I feel like realistically, like I feel like I would get along with this person, and we have somewhat similar sensibilities in terms of like the stuff we would do. So probably I would say Jamie from Shoo Shoo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then subsequently, who's a local artist that you're aware of but you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to?
Ooh, actually the person who is opening for me at the release show, Nathaniel Hill.
Mm-hmm.
He does like really sick noise stuff.
Oh hell yeah!
And I want to do like noise shows this year, because I love it as like a more like a performance thing as opposed to like listening.
Yeah,
like I definitely love a lot of, like a noise music, but I think that like genre really like
very much
in a live setting, and the way I've seen Nathan like it like approach like the noise world is really cool, and like in is original, because it's also a genre that I feel like there's such a low bar in terms of like I can scream into a microphone really loudly and bang some things and call it a noise set, but his stuff seems very kind of like intentional and thought out, and yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And I was going to say everybody at them in the comments, but you're already working with them.
Yeah.
You should check out another episode with a duo called Family Temple.
I've heard that name.
Yeah, they are a really, really cool duo, and they definitely make stuff in that realm. I think you would enjoy checking it out.
Sweet.
But not to plug another episode of your episode. I just
totally
want to make sure to drop it here so that when you check out your own episode, the name is there.
Cool.
Then for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limits, and it's pretty literal in this sense.
Okay.
But if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, it's guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show, and it doesn't have to be a venue. It can be anywhere.
Anywhere.
Where would you want to perform?
I don't know, I don't know if I have like a specific sort of like location in mind, but I think like just like a really massive, really old like cathedral or church would be cool, I think. Just utilizing that like space, and preferably some place with like a giant like pipe organ, so I can just kind of have like one giant like, droning note.
Just you pick it up and you move over to whichever note the key in the song is.
Yep. Yeah, probably something like that. Or honestly, like probably something like that. Or in like an old like playing in like the ruins of like a castle would be cool.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Feel sick.
Something reverberous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're cavernous or exactly.
Cavernous. There we go. That was definitely the word I was gonna look for.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And then to wrap up the hypothetical questions.
Okay.
If you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, they could put out an album yesterday. Who would you want an album?
It would be Death Grips for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. They're just kind of like a drug for me, and it's, I don't know, like getting into their stuff was like a pretty. It opened like it got me into hip hop, like and like metal as well, and and it's been too long.
Yeah,
the last one. So I'm ready, but I mean, like an actual proper like.
I mean, that's a valid answer.
Yeah.
Like, that, I fully support that.
Okay, yeah.
No, like I said, they could have put out one yesterday and you could have still got a new one.
They might have. It might be floating around out there, knowing them.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, the time of frame is unimportant, but that is definitely, I mean, I'll take another Death Grips album for sure.
Yeah. I think it's what the world needs.
Oh, yeah. All right, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up.
Cool.
You've already kind of... you've already kind of clued us in on it. But what can we look forward to between, let's say, now and October?
So I'm putting out my next album called Archangel, May 3rd. Working with Ronald Records to do. We're putting out
Ronald Records.
Yeah, putting out some like cassettes and shirts through them, which would be fun. First time having any sort of like physical media or like merch accompanying it, which is cool. I'll be playing a release show for that May 3rd, and potentially doing like a mini tour for the album. Unsure. It'd be just like a little like regional like Northwest tour.
Yeah, like start in Seattle, end in Salem kind of thing. Or past Salem, Eugene.
Yeah. Planning on doing some form of like little tour like that. And trying to think if I have anything else. Potentially might be like scoring a short film.
Oh, that's
more
exciting.
Of like something I'm talking about like with friends.
Yeah.
I did one either last year or 2 years ago, which is a lot of fun, and I would like to do another one. I think that's it for right now. Mainly just focusing on like this album and its rollout, and
hey, that's plenty at the moment.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's felt like a lot, but it's been cool.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
And then for this next part, go ahead and look straight at the camera and tell everybody how they can find you.
Oh, you can follow me on Instagram at Memory Derelict. Just at Memory Derelict. I'm on Bandcamp, all the streaming sites and services. Yeah, I think that's all the places.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you'd like to put on while you're on here?
If you're in the Vancouver area, Ronald Records, it's a great record store. They really kind of care about like the local music community, which is great. I love Portland and the local music scene, but their like dedication to highlighting Vancouver artists is cool and commendable. And the Vancouver live music scene kind of sucks, and it's great to have like the space that they have, and like for them to be able to like put on the shows that they like do is cool.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I'm gonna second that with the shout out to Ronald Records. They are definitely an awesome space. If you haven't gone there yet, go check it out, and you may be hearing a little bit more about them in the future.
Big ol' wink.
All right, now we've got one last question to go, but before we do, I'm gonna steal the camera for just a second.
Go for it.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary. Make sure to click the link below and go check them out. Guarantee you're going to like it. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation. But what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's more of a deep cut. It's not something a lot of people would know, but it's one you think everybody should go check out.
What to choose from, man?
I know. Right? I always say
a plethora.
If you can think of 1,000 things, whichever one is the first one.
I talked about them earlier, so I'll talk about them again. But the
Job for a Cowboy?
Oh, no, I wouldn't.
I'm kidding.
I'm gonna say there's an album called Wondering by the band Shoo Shoo. They put it out in 2016, and I feel like it does not get enough appreciation. It's experimental, and maybe my like tastes are just like too far off the deep end for like the average person to find acceptable. But like, it's really catchy. The lyrics are great, really diverse songwriting. It's real emotional, and like a pretty wide array of genres on like an album that's like barely like 40 minutes long.
Oh hell, I mean that's a pretty lengthy album.
Yeah.
For like, usually when you get like abstract builds like that, it's like you're like, 22 minutes. I get 2 extra minutes. So when you were like 40 minutes, I was like, that's like a real album.
Oh yeah, it's like full like real songs and everything. They're like pretty catchy.
Hell yeah.
Also like kind of weird, and it's a good mix of like abrasive and approachable, and yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm definitely, like I said, that name sounds really familiar, so I feel like I've heard them before.
Yeah.
But even if I have, I'm definitely going to go listen to that as well.
Yeah.
Y'all should also, and then make sure to check them out on May 3rd.
Yeah.
because this will come out by then, or way before then. So y'all have plenty of time to save the date.
Sweet.
All right, but we're going to go ahead and get up on out of here. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Memory Derelict.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap. This is not a podcast. This is a show. Keep jamming.